Good morning, everyone. So glad, or afternoon or evening, wherever you happen to be in the world. So happy to be here with you. My name is Karen Jones, and I'm here to speak with you about how to ride this great shift and maximize our potentials with feminine power. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with me for the next 35 minutes or so. And I also am so grateful to Emma and her staff for inviting me here to speak with you. So while we're together, I'm going to speak to four things. One is the four factors that are involved in this huge sea change that we women are in the midst of, and why it's important to understand it, including the paradox of why so many of us are doing so much more and yet aren't fulfilled and aren't necessarily successful. Secondly, the difference between the masculine and the feminine power structures, and a bit about when to use each of them. Third is the three connections we need to be able to embody our feminine power and the three barriers to it. And lastly, I do want to take you through an embodiment experience to connect you with your center of power. So before we go further, let us come together. Let us set aside any distractions and allow yourself to be present, to wonder how this might apply to your life. So let's go ahead and take a deep breath together and let it out with a sigh. Very good. So my name is Karen Jones. I'm an energy healer. I'm a transformational facilitator and a personal and spiritual growth geek. I am also a retired obstetrician gynecologist, and my background as a women's doctor is really what started me in my passion for the empowerment of women. And all of these experiences have woven together with my own inner transformation to bring me to where I am now as a guide and mentor to help driven, determined women make those inner transformations they need to create that truly luscious life. Let me share a little bit of my story because some of these points actually illustrate the factors that I'm going to be speaking of here in a moment. So I was at the end of my first year, beginning of my second year of college when I decided I wanted to become a doctor. And so I kind of sat down with myself and I determined what my major was going to be, what kind of grades I needed to get, when was the testing needed to be done, what places I wanted to interview at, and once I got into medical school, how to get through medical school, how to get into residency and get a job, which I got in Seattle. So that was all very logical and worked very well. But somewhere in that first 12 years or so in practice, I began to feel inside this dissatisfaction, this unhappiness, and I couldn't figure out what it was about. I began to do some explorations. I started looking into mind-body medicine because I felt like there needed to be something more to explain why people got sick or got well that really wasn't explained in Western medicine. I also happened to be at a Carolyn May seminar when I was speaking to a woman behind me in line. And I mentioned to her that I was noticing some tingling on the palms of my hands, and I didn't know what that was. And she said, "Oh, it's energy. Why don't you look up healing touch?" So when I got home, now this was in 2000, so Google worked. I Googled healing touch, never found it, interestingly enough. What instead I found was the Barbara Brennan School of Healing website. And what I saw there, the combination of half of it being learned energy healing techniques and half of it being personal growth, there was something inside me that just said, yes, yes, this is what I need to be doing now. And even though I did the logical thing, I took an orientation workshop to make sure that's really what I wanted. I followed that and went into the Barbara Brennan School of Healing. But the reason I share this is the point that I was at a point where I needed something more. I wanted something more, but I didn't know what it was, and I didn't know how to get there. So let's go ahead and dive in. There is this huge sea change that we women are living in terms of what we can be and do. The context of our lives has changed radically in the last 10 to 20 years, and this change is only accelerating. Look at the sheer number of us. You are entrepreneurs, you are visionaries, you are professionals, you are starting your own companies at unprecedented rates. Look at the number of CEOs and leaders that are women, the number of countries with women as presidents and prime ministers. More women than men are graduating from college at this time. It seems as if the world is our oyster, and we are standing in our power to be change agents. We are having a greater and greater influence in the world, and we're looking for ways not only to make money, but to have work that makes a difference and has meaning. But at the same time we are rising, we are also falling. Consider that we women in the first world countries are less happy, more stressed and lonely than our sisters in the second and third world countries in many cases. Notice how many of us are depressed. 20% of women are on antidepressants. And that doesn't count the number of us who feel unhappy or blue or unfulfilled at times. 50% of us have an unhealthy relationship with our bodies. And the vast majority of us at times are saying, there's stuff about my body I don't like. I certainly have done that and said that. Many of us are having severe or serious financial stress. And even though women are starting more businesses than men these days, 95% of us never break through into the six-figure mark. This is a huge paradox that we are experiencing. On one hand, we have so many dreams and ideas and goals of what we desire to be and do and create, and the power to do it. Yet at the same time, we often feel truly powerless to create and actualize our goals and to have the meaningful and fulfilling and successful lives we truly want. Have you had any experience of this? Go ahead and drop a comment or an emoji if you have. So, what is going on? That's what we're here to discuss more of. In my observation, there are 4 factors that are a part of this. One is the societal change. Second is the masculine power structure. Third is the feminine power structure. And fourth is our movement from accomplishment to self-actualization. So let me dive into these in more detail. And the reason I'm doing this is because the more aware we are of this larger context of our lives, the more we can make choices and develop skills and capacities that will move us forward to have our successful business and have joy and fulfillment together. So, societal changes. Consider this. Before 1900, the focus of almost all women was on survival, and our personal power was limited to non-existent. We were in the lowest hierarchy of Maslow survival mode. Relationships and marriage, they were pretty much for stability and security so we could raise children and survive. Women couldn't own businesses or property. We were essentially owned by and dependent on our husband and family. Women's roles and men's roles were very strict, fixed and circumscribed. And if women did anything different, it was a huge scandal. As we got into the 20th century, change began to really accelerate. Women could vote, own property, and with the Industrial Revolution and beyond, there was a general improvement of the quality of life, the development of the middle class, and all of a sudden there was more possibility in our lives. In terms of Maslow's hierarchy, we were moving up to the needs for affection and self-esteem by accomplishment. The immutable roles that we were in at the beginning of the 1900s began to change. They began to soften and shift. With World War II, Rosie the Riveter, followed by women gradually moving into traditional men's roles in greater and greater numbers. However, we did our jobs and advanced our careers the way men did, with the masculine power structure, because that was the only way we women knew how to get power and how to get accomplishments. More recently, the definition of success has really shifted from having that high-powered career, being the CEO, to being fulfilled and having a career of meaning, which is self-actualization. Let me talk about the masculine power system for a moment. If you think about it, power is defined in masculine terms: to do, to act, to exert force over. In addition, this system is linear, logical, and strategic, hierarchical, and top-down, often with externally applied information. This system works very well for goals that are predictable, objective, and where there needs to be a step-by-step plan. To build a house, to put together a program to increase sales and deal with strategy, it works great. I use this system to get into medical school, into residency, and to find a job. And we as women have been using this system for the last 50 plus years, and it worked very well. The benefits of this system: it's science and industry, up-leveling the standard of living, opportunities and advancements for men and women. The problem is this system does not work so well when I desire to be all that I can be. When I want to have a way to make money that is value-driven. When I want to have relationships where each of us is encouraged to be our best. In short, it doesn't help us to realize our potentials or to self-actualize. And that is what most of us who are here are driven by and desire at this time. I want to be more. I want to be my authentic self. I want to learn, what is my purpose? What am I uniquely here to do? But when we apply the masculine power approach to this, we're left feeling unfulfilled and dissatisfied, because the system has us looking outward for what to be and do, instead of inward, which is where self-actualization actually starts. The consequence? We're unhappy, dissatisfied, feel like imposters, confused, and feel very ashamed that we can't figure this out. And we can have success, but there are certainly times when we feel like we're not getting the traction because we aren't aligned with our potentials. So my story, I was very successful, but I was dissatisfied, unhappy, and confused, and I thought there was a problem with me. How many of you have experienced this? Go ahead and drop a comment or an emoji. So in less than 100 years, the majority of women have shifted from focusing on survival to focusing on accomplishment and increasing their self-esteem in that way. And now to self-actualization. Stop a moment. Reflect on this. This has never happened before, when so many hundreds of millions of women are all at once seeking self-actualization. This is a huge shift, and yet many women have no idea that this is what is happening, why they feel this way, or what to do about it. They don't know what self-actualization is. We no longer want the things to do success the way that men do. We don't want the traditional roles. In fact, most of you here are working to be something that's undefined. You are creating new roles that's never been here before. Let me speak to feminine power. So it is a feminine power system that holds the key to us realizing our potentials. Let me speak to what this is not, because there is some misunderstanding here. Feminine power is not passively waiting for the universe to drop things into our hands. Feminine power is not the belief that what is meant to happen will happen. That is passivity and waiting. And I've certainly gone into this where I thought, going into myself and utilizing feminine power meant if I just sit, the answer will come to me, or they'll happen without me taking action. That's kind of what we've thought about. Not true though. Feminine power is active, intuitive, and dynamic. It takes what is inside us and brings it out. However, there are barriers between you and I and deeply embodying and utilizing our feminine power. It requires inner transformation, inner work, to remove those barriers that prevent most of us from deeply and fully accessing it. As these barriers dissolve, then we begin to know more and more clearly what we desire to express and be open to the next inspired action that step by step leads us to manifesting our purpose in the world in a very tangible way. So, this paradox of powerlessness is caused by the overuse of masculine power, the underuse of feminine power, from lack of awareness of an inability to connect with and source ourselves from the feminine. Hopefully that makes sense. All right. So deeper into feminine power, there are 3 connections that we need to make to source ourselves from the feminine, and 3 barriers that are in the way. I'm also going to speak of the 3 antidotes to these barriers. So what is required? First, a deep connection to ourselves. And this means I need to know what I want, what I need, what I feel. I need to be embodied. And I need to be connected with my center of power as a woman, which is in, physically, my hips and pelvis. The barrier to this connection is shame. Shame of my identity. It is encompassed by a series of underlying beliefs about who I am and what I am that limits my power and my potential. These unconscious beliefs are things like, I am not good enough. I am too much. I'm not valuable. It is not safe for me to be seen. Sound familiar? This shuts down our growth. Now, interestingly, the antidote to shame isn't self-love, or it isn't simply self-love. Clearly, self-love is needed here, okay? It is to follow that self-love by acting on our own behalf. Empowered action for myself, out of my love and my knowingness of my deep worthiness, simply as I am, as a being. All right, number 2. The second connection we need is a connection to the universe, to the knowingness, the yes that all life is supporting my success. I need to know that there is something bigger than me, supporting me and co-creating with me. This barrier to this connection is lack. And by lack, I don't mean lack of abundance or lack of material possessions. This lack barrier says that you and I are disconnected. You're disconnected from a loving and supportive universe. Instead, what we experience is insecurity, fear, and scarcity, perhaps a sense that it's too late or there's not enough. And the result is I have to control things to feel safe and get what I want. I have to try to create from my mind, from control, and from figuring out, all of which comes from fear. And I so did that, I would say, in a number of my years in medicine. is I was trying to figure things out. And when I would get afraid, I would go into needing to control the situation at a deeper and deeper level. But as I become aware of this, I could really feel that it's from fear. It's from, having it. So I have to control it. I have to figure it out with my mind. Only my mind is only part of the equation. I need more. I need all of me, and I need the universe as part of it. So the antidote here is to shift from fear to openness and receptivity, where we can connect with our intuition and create in partnership with life. We realize we are a full partner with life. We co-create with life, and I am 100% responsible for my part of this partnership. It is this stance that helps me to get out of waiting and being passive. Third connection is a connection to the resources that I need, whether it is people or skills or capacities that I need to cultivate or other help and support that I need. The barrier to this connection is isolation, which stops you and I from accessing the support we need to accomplish our goals and our dreams. We may experience this as a feeling of being in it alone, or all of those feelings of competition and comparison. It is coming right from this. It's right from this. So if you still are feeling like you're comparing each other or competing, you haven't cleared this one, I can tell you. And I've done this too. I realized very recently that I needed to clear this so that I could work with people and collaborate with people. So, a word to the wise. I also had a belief in myself at times that I didn't deserve help, or it was weak to need help. I'm supposed to do it all by myself. So the antidote here is to shift from either being so focused on myself that I have to do it all, or focused on other people, that what are they doing, to a relationship where I'm aware of myself, the other people, the resources around me, in a field of connection, so I'm open to it all. It's a real bit of an opening. And with this, we can magnetize the people, the resources, and the opportunities that we need to take the next inspired step. Questions. And if you have any questions, whether you're watching this live or on the replay, please drop them into comments and I will come back and answer them. All right. So I'm not seeing any questions. So let me move into an experience of embodiment. I'm going to take you through a guided practice to connect with your feminine center of power. And from that space to ask yourself, what do I desire to create in my life? And I recommend that you simply listen and be curious. Okay. So if it's possible, sit down, take a deep breath, and let it out with a sigh. I invite you to close your eyes if you'd like, and focus your awareness on your breath, on your chest as it moves, on your belly as it moves. And let your awareness drop even further down to your hips and pelvis. This is your center of power as a woman. And drop your awareness even further to your legs, your knees, your feet, and out the bottom of your feet into the center of the earth. And bringing your awareness back to your hips and pelvis, let your energy extend out to the edges of the room. So this way you're both energetically deep and wide. Now bring to mind a time when you were being yourself at your most resourceful and capable. Maybe you just finished a project really well. Your launch went great. You created this great meal. You were able to be with a friend when she really needed you to be present. This is you being you at your most resourceful, capable, compassionate, wise, the whole thing. So from there, be connected to your hips and pelvis into this resourceful self of you. Now, bring to mind something that makes your heart smile. I tend to use my kids, puppies, sunset, sunrise, friends. Actually, my favorite one to use is chocolate mousse. Whatever makes your heart smile. And as you hold these three areas, your heart, your resourceful self, and your hips and pelvis, now from this stance, ask yourself, what do I most desire to create in my life? What do I most desire to express in my life? What do I most desire to experience in my life? Simply listen. Release judgment. And be curious. Be curious. I'll give you another moment or so. And now just noticing how your body feels, your emotions, your thoughts. Is this any different from when you started? What's different? What do you sense is different? And the reason I ask this is because we often don't pay enough attention to know if something's different or not. So as I ask you to pay attention to notice difference from your usual stance, your usual way of being, then you can get a sense of, is this useful? All right. So in conclusion, in this talk I've shared with you our new context, this huge sea change that is going on with women that is simply unprecedented. Women like you and I are yearning to express ourselves in new ways. That is a longing not just to survive and have loving relationships or financial security, but to unleash possibilities and potentials that have been bottled up inside. We are looking to create new roles or old roles with a new twist. However, many women are experiencing this paradox of having the power to do, but feeling powerless to get what we really want. The issue is that this self-actualization can't be done with the masculine power system that most of us have been using quite successfully. Instead, it is time to shift to the feminine power system, which is way more effective at helping women to be all they desire to be. I also spoke to the 3 requirements to connect to the feminine's power system and the common barriers that each of us needs to dissolve and transform in order to activate that power effectively. Finally, I gave you a taste and experience of feminine embodiment. This is what I do with my clients. And from this stance, to start asking those deep inner questions. One last point I do want to make is these systems are not an either-or situation, but a both-and. We can use the strategies of the masculine power system to support the flow, inner and outer working, of the feminine and possibilities of the feminine power system. So, questions, please message me and friend me. Love to link up with you. Now, okay, I'm going to have to come back in and I'll put in the comments a link to a page, because what I have for you is a guided audio practice that takes you through this at a little bit more deeper level to connect to your center power as a woman. I invite you to download it and listen to it. I actually encourage you to do it regularly, especially when you want to be asking inner questions, or you realize you need to make sure you're embodied and empowered. And like I said, I will drop the link to the sign-in page into the comment section as soon as we end this live video. Feel free to get the link. Secondly, I also have a free Facebook group you're welcome to come over and check out. It is Driven Women Ready to Unleash Their Luscious Life. And the purpose is really in the title. That's what it says. I go live there weekly and share trainings. So again, thank you so much for taking the time to be with me. I've really enjoyed sharing this context with you, and I trust that knowing and appreciating this big picture of what we are in will help you to better understand your experiences as you bring your unique calling out into the world. Blessings, everyone. Thank you, and until we meet again, be well.